in a session when we talk about support for survivors. We talk about children that have been raped. Angelina Jolie mentioned this morning, often in front of family members. We talk about rape of elderly women and men. We talk about severe genital mutilation. We talk about gang rape. We also talk about mutilation of pieces inside of us, of which we don't see the scars, but they can be just as much harmful. And we don't often talk about that, but I do really, really think it's important because it tells us something about the extent of the support that is really needed for survivors. It can take years, if not generations, and we will hear about that in this session, for those harms to be repaired. But it doesn't have to be that way, and it should not be that way. I think the last 10 years, since 2012, important strides have been made when it comes to support for survivors. I would like to say that survivors are more central to the care that they are entitled to. I think it is more community-based. I think it is more integrated in national systems. But the other side, if you really look critically, how much is there to celebrate? Because how many victims are still left behind? And I just, before we start, want to give you one example. 2014, many of you will remember the extremely high suicide rates of girls that had been abducted by Islamic State. The state that these girls were in. And then if you look back at the mental health response over the years, in all fairness, it has been patchy. It's been not sufficiently coordinated and significantly underfunded. With the consequence now that many of these girls are now women, still suffering from mental health problems, affecting all other parts of their life. And when you look back, I really think it's right for us to ask ourselves, the international community, why did we not do better? Why did we not come in massively with psychological support, quality psychological support for every woman, girl, boy that fell at the hands of ISIS? And we haven't. What you would wish is that every child had received the same care that you would wish for your own child, the best possible care. Talking about the best possible care, I would like to turn to Your Royal Highness and Dr. Mukwege. Your Royal Highness, you visited Panzi not long ago, and I would love to hear from you both about the visit, but also your views on the best possible care.
Thank you very much, Esther. And ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be here today with you all. Yes, indeed, I was recently in DRC and had the huge pleasure of visiting Panzi Hospital, Panzi Foundation, and the City of Joy. Now, for those of you that haven't been there, the Panzi Hospital, I have to say, I'm very pleased to say, is fantastically equipped with some amazing technology and some incredible surgeons who work day and night to support the many, many people that come through the doors. The level of medical care there is really unparalleled. It is fantastic. And they try everything and anything they can to literally put people back together again. And I saw, in fact, actually, my staff was slightly horrified because I ended up in amongst a couple of surgeries that were going on. But it really was wonderful to be able to speak with the surgeons and to understand better what they were doing. That is the medical care that every single survivor should have the right to access. But it is purely the lucky ones that find themselves, and I say lucky with a heavy caveat here, but they are the more fortunate ones that find themselves at Panzi Hospital because they are going to get the best care from the nurses and from the surgeons. And many of the people that I met have had multiple surgeries over many years. Moving through from the medical side of things into the foundation, this is where the more holistic side of the care is actually taking place. This is where the staff are looking at understanding how to not only put somebody back together physically, but mentally and practically. So you have all of the people there, all of the clients are being offered training. So they have a future. It's not just a one-sided approach. and actually having met them and seeing the many different opportunities that they have, which also are coupled with psychological care as well, is giving them a potential which, if they are just purely treated physically, they may not have. And of course, as we all know, the issue of stigma means that so many of them won't be able to go back to their communities. They will not be accepted back into their families. And therefore, they have got a very bleak outlook. Alongside doing the practical side of things and the teaching, we have children. There's children at the foundation. They call him Papa. And for them, it's hard. How can they understand what has happened to them? Their future is very much in question. But when I tell you that many of the staff at the Pansy Foundation have actually taken children on themselves to look after them, because the reality is that some of the mothers have abandoned their children. Now, no one in this room and elsewhere in the world can stand in judgment of that. For those of us that have not experienced the rapes that they have experienced and the rejection that they've experienced, we must not stand in judgment of them. But the reality is they leave the children behind. And Pansy Foundation looks after them. And as I say, many of the staff have actually taken the care on themselves. They also teach the women basic things like self-defense. If you give somebody agency, you give them respect, but you also want to give them power. And something as simple as self-defense is empowering women, that they can stand up for themselves. So hopefully, if they are attacked again, because one cannot assume that once they have left the foundation that this may not happen again, they may stand a chance of protecting themselves. But let's now move forward to the City of Joy. It's called the City of Joy because it is one of the most joyful places I have ever been. The care is based on love and respect. Respect is something that has, it doesn't cost anybody to respect someone. It costs nothing to love somebody. And this is the premise that the City of Joy is based on. And they work with these incredibly damaged women to give them self-respect, to give them life chances that they may not otherwise have. And they surround them with each other because they also learn from each other, as well as the people that are working there that give so freely of themselves day after day. It is one of the most amazing visits I've ever done. I have every hope that I will be returning in the future. But it was an amazing thing to do, and I hope that my description brings some of the humanity into the room. We've been talking at a very high level in the last couple of hours. But we have to remember that the survivors are human. They need love, they need respect, and they need our care. So really my question really is to Dr. Mukwege. I've tried to describe a little bit of what they do there. How is it that you came about this holistic model? What is it that you think is the essence of what you do?
Je vais répondre en français. Je tiens d'abord à vous remercier de faire cette visite. Et je crois que ce que je voulais dire, toute personne, quelle que soit sa position, peut faire quelque chose, comme vous l'avez dit, donner de l'amour aux survivants de violences sexuelles et transformer leur vie. J'ai travaillé avec des malades de tout genre. Mais je crois que le viol, même si elles viennent à l'hôpital avec des problèmes physiques, mais ce n'est pas une maladie comme les autres. C'est pour ça qu'elles passent à l'hôpital, mais assez rapidement, on s'est aperçu que ce n'est pas une maladie comme les autres. Quand vous soignez toute autre forme de maladie, souvent après, le malade, il passe cette phase de la maladie et recommence une vie nouvelle. Pour les victimes de violences sexuelles, c'est tout à fait différent, puisque le viol est similé au déni de la personne. Et toutes les victimes que j'ai rencontrées, que ce soit en Asie, en Afrique ou en Amérique, qu'elles soient riches ou pauvres, lorsqu'elle est violée, je suis très étonné, quelle que soit aussi la génération, elle considère que il y a une expression que j'ai trouvée partout, on m'a tué, je n'existe plus. Et donc c'est un problème plus profond que seulement le problème physique. Et donc lorsque nous soignons pour la première fois les victimes de violences sexuelles à Panzi, on était satisfait de faire ce côté médical. Mais assez rapidement, on s'était aperçu que le côté médical représente très peu par rapport aux besoins des victimes. Nous avions ajouté progressivement l'aspect psychologique, l'aspect socio-économique, l'aspect légal. Tout ça, c'est dans un processus de guérison pour pouvoir combler en fait ces vides qui se présentent chez les victimes de violences sexuelles qui arrivent à l'hôpital avec ce sentiment de ne plus exister. Et je crois que c'est là où il y a la profondeur de cette question. C'est là où je crois qu'il est très, très important que toute personne qui s'implique dans la prise en charge des victimes de violences sexuelles puisse comprendre que cette déni de l'humanité est très forte et elle concerne toutes les femmes, quel que soit l'endroit où ça se passe. Et c'est dans ces contextes que nous travaillons pour essayer de remettre cette humanité détruite et perdue pour ces femmes victimes de violences sexuelles.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Your Royal Highness, for highlighting, I think, the compassion of quality care. Protocol is one thing, and at Panzi, all protocols are followed, of course, but I recognize very much what you're saying about it's this compassion that really, really makes a very big difference. With that, I would like to turn to First Lady Zelenska. Thank you very much for being here, despite the situation in your country. I think I can speak for all of us in the room that we are incredibly grateful for the effort for you to come here, which I think is a very important sign to survivors. And I would like us actually to all give an applause. First Lady, since Russia's war began in 2014 in the Donbass, and of course with the recent invasion and the continuing invasion, reports have come out about sexual violence being used as part of the aggression. What I find remarkable, and I think we will all share that, is that the Ukrainian government is there for survivors. And you're showing us that despite an ongoing war, a government can be there for survivors, but that is extremely challenging. Can you tell us, please, what are those challenges that you're facing supporting survivors of conflict-related sexual violence while a war is ongoing and your country is under attack at the moment?
Thank you for your question. I'll speak Ukrainian because I will speak about Ukraine. Ви правильно сказали, що війна в Україні розпочалася в 2014 році, а не 24 лютого цього року. І, на жаль, тисячі українців потерпають від насильства росіян уже починаючи з 2014 року, особливо на окупованих територіях. І 24 лютого просто розширилася географія і розширилися можливості загарбників нищити і вбивати, і в тому числі пригноблювати різними іншими способами українців. І, на жаль, злочин сексуального насильства – це також річ, яка є в їхньому арсеналі. це дуже болюча для нас тема, тому що в Україні ми зараз ніхто не почуваємося в цілковитій безпеці через постійні ракетні атаки, через те, що ми не впевнені, що прокинемося завтра живі в своїх ліжках зранку. Але, звісно, тема сексуального насильства стоїть окремо, тому що це найжорстокіший, на мою думку, такий звірячий спосіб довести своє панування над тобою. І жертвам цього виду насильства дуже важко свідчити і в мирні часи, і особливо в час війни, коли ніхто не почувається в безпеці, тому що бояться, що військові, які вчора над тобою це вчинили, можуть завтра повернутися і нагадати тобі про себе. Перший випадок, який було задокументовано, тобто чутки, розмови в суспільстві ходять постійно. Всі нібито знають, що величезна кількість зґвалтувань, але так, щоб це було свідчення, так, щоб розпочався розголос для того, щоб почалося слідство. Я можу розповісти про перший випадок, який відбувся в Київській області перед тим, як її було деокуповано. Перше, що зробили окупанти, коли прийшли в той будинок, вони вбили собаку, потім вбили чоловіка, жінки і гвалтували її, погрожуючи тим, що вб'ють її дитину. Коли їй вдалося втекти, ця жінка знайшла в собі сили, можливості і сміливість розповісти про це. Це було першим задокументованим злочином насильства російських загарбників в Україні. Наразі нашою Генеральною прокуратурою ведеться слідство понад 100 таких випадків, але зрозуміло, що це мізерно невелика кількість тих випадків, які були в дійсності. Я хочу, щоб ви сьогодні послухали пізніше виступ нашого генерального прокурора пана Костіна, який сьогодні тут також присутній. Він розповість про те, які норми ми змінюємо в своєму процесуальному кодексі, які у нас будуть нововведення щодо ведення слідства таких злочинів. Ми дійсно рухаємося швидкими темпами, і найбільший наш, я впевнена, успіх в тому, що слідство і відповідальність, розшук тих, хто це скоїв, відбувається уже під час військового конфлікту, під час війни, а не після нього. І дійсно дуже важливо зібрати всі документацію, зробити всі слідчі дії, але перше, що необхідно, це те, щоб жертви говорили. І це дуже велика проблема, тому що тут не тільки стигма, яка є в будь-якому суспільстві, тут діє абсолютно безперечно діє страх. І діє невпевненість в тому, що хтось понесе покарання за те, що він скоїв. Тому ось ці два пункти, я на них затримаюся довше, тому що вони дуже важливі для того, щоб жертви дійсно почали говорити, для того, щоб ми зробили висновки з цих жахливих випадків. Наразі психологи кажуть, що жертва здатна говорити тільки коли вона вже почувається в цілковитій безпеці. Тому в Україні створюються максимально всі умови для того, щоб люди починали говорити. Почала працювати глобальна програма психологічної підтримки. Вона стосується не тільки жертв зґвалтувань, але й всіх українців, які зараз під величезним психологічним тиском знаходяться. У нас створюються центри допомоги врятованим, куди можуть прийти всі люди, яким потрібна допомога в будь-якій сфері, тимчасові вимушені переселенці, люди, які шукають роботу, що втратили її через війну, люди, у яких побутові проблеми, і в тому числі люди, які мають досвід, травмуючий досвід сексуального насильства. З ними там починають працювати фахові психологи, які можуть вже під час першої розмови зрозуміти, що, можливо, ця людина зазнала такої трагедії в своєму житті. І після цього м'яко підвести її до того, що вона може говорити, що вона зараз у безпеці. І якщо ці розмови продовжуються деякий час, можуть взяти в неї дозвіл на те, щоб відкрити впровадження і піти вже разом із нею до правоохоронних органів.
Такі центри, я впевнена, потрібні нашим постраждалим, і я впевнена, що вони потрібні нам не тільки в Україні, тому що багато наших жертв змогли втекти від військових дій, і вони зараз знаходяться за кордоном. Тому ті країни, які їх зараз приймають, мені здається, ми можемо зробити партнерську програму з створення таких саме центрів і за кордоном. Зараз ми в першу чергу розглядаємо Німеччину, Чехію та низку інших країн, які вже готові співпрацювати з нами в цьому напрямку. І другий аспект – це відповідальність. Я дуже щаслива, що на такому рівні піднімається тема сексуального насильства у військових конфліктах. Чим більше буде таких майданчиків, такого високого рівня, тим більше буде у всього суспільства впевненість в тому, що безкарним з цієї ситуації не вийде ніхто. Сексуальне насильство під час війни – це злочин, який є військовим злочином, тобто він не має терміну давності. Але що ми всі маємо зрозуміти, що сексуальні злочини в Україні зараз – це не просто насильство, це не просто домінація, домінування, це не просто залякування. Це ще один їхній інструмент зброї. Це зброя у військовому конфлікті зґвалтування. And
this crime truly does not have this duration. And it's important also for us to understand that sexually related crimes is not just about violence or threatening. In fact, this is another instrument that they're using as their weaponry. This is another weapon in their arsenal in this war conflict. That's why they're using this systematically and openly. They're very open about this. That is why it's extremely important to recognize this as a war crime and to bring all the perpetrators to accountability. Because obviously, such crimes, they can be just here or there, you know, but if we see that this is systematic because it is coming from the top down, and we see that the Russian servicemen are very open about this. They talk about this over the phone with their relatives, you know, that the phone conversation that we managed to capture. And in fact, their wives, the Russian servicemen's wife, are encouraging this man. They say, go on, rape those Ukrainian women. Just don't share this with me. Just don't tell me. So they, as if they have this right. And that's why there has to be a global response to this. Unfortunately, such war crimes will keep on going in the world as long as the servicemen think that they can go without any punishment, and that there can be any chance of impunity for them. So truly, I do hope that there will be and that there has to be a response from the entire free world to everything that's happening in Ukraine now. Thank you.
Thank you, First Lady. I think the applause speaks for itself, but also thank you for highlighting how quality support for survivors can actually be a condition for seeking justice. I just want to share with you, I was in Ukraine in May this year, and we spoke to a lot of survivors of the 2014-15 period, and what they were saying is we need to hear the government, we need to hear our government that they're there for us and that we are considered victims of war, and that is, I think, exactly what you're doing through justice, through support, through reparations. That is actually something that victims around the world should be hearing from their government, and in that sense, you're really setting a precedent. Thank you very much. Aina, it is such an honor to be sharing this stage with you. You are an advocate for children born of war, and you and your organization, the Forgotten Children of War Association, have been fighting for many, many years. And I remember a speech that you did in New York, and it made an incredible impression on me because it was so spot on. And if you allow me, I will share, and you allowed me already before the panel, in all honesty, I would like to share the quote with you, with the audience. Once, while I was talking to my mother, I promised her that I would make this world a better place for her. And that is why I'm standing here in front of you today. I hope that I'm on the right path. Together with my friends, also children born of rape, and children whose fathers were members of peacekeeping missions, I build a better future for all of us who are like us, not only in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but all over the world. And that's exactly what you've been doing. Now, thanks to your persistent advocacy and that of your organization, children that were born of rape have been recognized this year by the government in your country officially as victims of war. And that is a major achievement, be it 30 years after the war ended. And again, that should be setting a precedent for other countries. But Anya, please share with us what are some of the challenges, because this was not an easy achievement to reach. What are some of the challenges for children born of war, and what can be done, and by who?
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity to share our stories and to have a voice in this country. Yes, when we talk about challenges of the children born out of war, I have to say that we are often called a hidden population, because if people know that we are born, we would be exposed to stigmatization and discrimination. We are still exposed to social condemnation that can include political and legal rejection. So this is the main challenge, because of this, precisely because of this, our mothers try to hide our fathers' identities very easily, which makes it difficult to map and gather children born out of war in certain countries, for us in Bosnia and Herzegovina. As you know, we are very, very neglected population, and I should emphasize that our mothers are also exposed to double stigmatization as a survivors of war rape, but also as a mothers. Without support, women and girls suffer significant psychological, physical, social, and economic effects of the forced motherhood. And I think that it is very important that international community faced with these intergenerational effects of the sexual violence that led to the forced motherhood, to conception and birth of a child, that is consequence of that violence. I think that also we should be aware that in the general lack of the specific targeted national and international policies and laws to address the needs of the children born out of war, risk and harms will be multiplied in the lives of the children and become worse. I think also that it's important to say that global and national communities must face the taboos and the complexities surrounding the reproductive violence and the forced motherhood, because everything that our mothers face with, it's just passed on to us, their children born out of the sexual violence. Also, the constant practical and normative marginalization of the children born out of rape is a significant obstacle to sustainable and inclusive peace, reconciliation, and transitional justice, because we are very aware that transitional justice processes cannot meet their goals if they don't recognize nor enforce the rights of the children born out of rape. In the case of Bosnia, before Bosnia, we had Norway and Colombia that recognized children born out of rape through the law. Bosnia and Herzegovina and Bosnia law was the first to to respond to very recent recommendation of the UN General Secretary, and also the recommendation of the Human Rights Treaty Committees, and the model legislation written by a special representative on sexual violence in conflict, and precedents set by international courts to protect children born out of war. These bodies emphasize and should do more to support the fact that children born out of war are a category of the victims that are not recognized, their needs are not addressed by the states, and I think that it should be more imploring the states to recognize and create the legislation that will include all risk, needs, and the issues of stigmatization. But from the perspective of the children born out of rape, from my personal perspective and association perspective, I can tell that this platform for action showed us once again that how much is important to cooperate together. Because, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Because from the beginning, yeah, it's always about being together, because this is not just my problem. I'm born out of rape, but it's not just my problem. It's not just problem of our members. It's not just problem of my mother. This is a really global problem that should be included and addressed in all political structures, especially in those who deal with the question of the human rights or the question of the support to survivors, because unfortunately, in the case of Ukraine and everywhere, we can see that war happening and will happen in the future. And if we can do something for prevention, let's do it, because if our common work can save just one life, let's not wait. Let's do it. Yeah. And because of the room is very full, and there is so many organizations, I want to emphasize that we in Bosnia, we screamed after 25 years of complete invisibility. This kind of scream was our need. We had to do that. But thanks to science, thanks to research from the Children Born Out of War Network, thanks to cooperation with the other associations, especially in our case, thanks to cooperation with the Trial International, we got the law now in Bosnia. You know, this kind of cooperation, supporting the children born out of war, help us to put our needs and risk on the paper and transfer that into the words of the law. And on the end, I'm sure, when I see full house, I'm sure that this kind of cooperation exists in all other different conflict or post-conflict countries. And I strongly, strongly recommend that we support, encourage this cooperation, because it's a life changer. My life is changed now, and we can do it for more children out there.
Thank you. Thank you. Anna, if you would allow me, I just want to amplify that call, because personally I'm still grappling with the fact that in many countries, children born of war cannot be registered. And if something is within our power and within our legal framework, it is to register all children, give them an identity, regardless of how they've been conceived. So please, to all the governments that are here, please let us work together, like Anya is saying, to really get this changed and make that a priority for the next year, I would say. Thank you. With that, turning to the international community, Lord Ahmed, you have been an advocate for ending conflict-related sexual violence, and in your role you have traveled the world, you have seen many different forms of support to survivors, and it's actually, I think, thanks to your personal commitment to this, to the issue and the plight of survivors, that the UK continues to see this as a priority, which we are entirely grateful for. I would love to hear from you. What are your impressions? What are the types of support that have made most impression on you? And what can the international community do to step that up?
Well, first and foremost, what's made an impression on me is this, the panel that I have the huge honor to be sitting with today, from the convening power of Her Royal Highness over a number of years, in terms of the personal motivation, support she's extended to me. Dr. Mukwege, what more can I say? And I'm proud that the UK government, over successive governments, and you know what, recently I've been part of those successive governments, been provided extended support to your efforts. And like Her Royal Highness, when we visited, we saw directly the efforts and support that you give at often cost to yourself. You know, this man, Dr. Mukwege, has been subject not to death threats. Actually, they've followed him, but he's gone back time and time again. And you put it on yourself. I'm a member of the government. I'm a minister. I'm an advocate, as you say. But you know what? The best insights and the reason we do this is all the survivors. You know, it's important we look at issues of reconciliation where we can bridge gaps between conflicting parties. And I know we've had some insightful discussions this morning, but I certainly take the view, you know, I myself am a child of the partition of the Indian subcontinent. It was my visit to Bosnia, right at the start of my career in finance, many, many years after that conflict, that partition had happened, that I came back and discussed what I saw. The people I had met from the different communities, how family had turned on family, community on community, faith group on faith group. That after 40-odd years, for 3 occasions I saw a tear in my father's eye, and that was one of them. And that was the trigger that allowed him to share what our family went through in terms of the partition that saw families split, torture, rape, pillage. But what's important is how you bridge gaps and reconciliation. That's why I'm glad, and having Anya, you sitting here, we've met before. Later this afternoon, I'll be launching a real platform committed to children born of rape and sexual violence, because it is not your fault, it's not fault of any child. Indeed, we should honor you, we should salute you and celebrate you, because it's your courage and advocacy which inspires governments, and it's right that we focus on those issues. And to you, First Lady, what can I say? I was sharing with you yesterday, back in 2019, I was hugely privileged, and I said on a personal note that I was the first minister to extend congratulations to President Zelensky. Nor he, not you, not I, indeed no one knew what would unfurl on Ukraine. But again, the United Kingdom, I'm proud to say, has stood firm in terms of our support for you. And we will continue to stand firm on this. But coming to your key point in all of this, I think it's important that countries extend support in a structured format, ensure financing is there. That's why I'm pleased, Esther, we're supporting the Global Survivors Fund. We need to be coordinating activities. That's why we work hand in glove with key partners, UN agencies, but most importantly, civil society organizations and partners. But it's also on governments to have those tough calls and diplomatic engagement when it's needed. And that has been also an important call, that we can start again having those candid conversations, because victims of these crimes, the survivors who have the courage not just to be here, but the most powerful advocates, no government should need more inspiring examples as to why this is necessary. And that bridging of those dialogues is ensuring that in the future we see reconciliation. So I assure you, Madam First Lady, from behalf of the United Kingdom government, that we stand very firm in our support for Ukraine, the work we've done historically in places such as Kosovo, Bosnia, the work we continue to do in supporting yourselves, Dr. Mukwege, in what's happening in Congo. And we should never lose sight, I was asked a question, that this isn't just about live conflicts for the here and now. It's the conflicts that still continue. Often, as you rightly said, Anya, there are issues under the radar. And it's our job through conferences like this, through bringing people together, to ensure those conversations can take place, those insightful discussions can take place. Our historical past of any country, and I speak as a United Kingdom minister, if reconciliation was not important, we would not be in the position we are today. There are things that have happened in the past that the United Kingdom is not proud of, but it's for the here and now and the future we build together, and that's why the work you do, Dr. Mukwege, the inspiration, Anya, you provide, the work, Your Royal Highness, you have done in convening people, frankly, it's an insight, and to the survivors for the work you do, the inspiration you give us. There's a simple answer to your question ultimately, is that, simply put, it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Ahmed, for showing that commitment time after time again. And I think we spoke about all the panelists, but we haven't spoken about you. And I think your personal commitment speaks in everything that you say. And I would love that to be an inspiration to all of the government officials that are in this room to carry this fight forward together with these advocates that I'm sure will continue to serve the interests of survivors and support for survivors. To all of the advocates in the room, please keep fighting for justice, keep fighting for increased resources, keep fighting for safe access to care. Keep up your fight. And to all of the governments here, please hear their call and respond with very bold action. Thank you very much and have a good lunch.
Thank you very much, everyone. As you have guessed, that is the end of the morning sessions. I think